Since the birth of agriculture, farmers have relied on the sun to grow their crops. Now, that energy is being harnessed to power homes and businesses. But finding that delicate balance of using solar to power farms and using farmland for solar farms has divided families, friendships, and farmers. The sun. We've been working on making it work for us for centuries. First as a fire starter, then as a weapon, an oven, and then in 1839, solar panels were invented. It's been a race of innovation ever since. By 2023, solar accounted for over half of all new electricity generating capacity added to the grid. Currently, Maryland has a renewable energy goal to have 50% of its electricity come from clean, renewable sources by 2030. To meet that goal, Maryland, like 2/3 of states across the country, have turned to farmland. And that has some farmers concerned.
You're always thinking, what's the next farm that might disappear?
Kent County's Chris Davis is a 7th-generation farmer who co-owns Rich Levels Grain with his brother Rob.
So we till about a total of 5,000 acres. 1,000 of that is owned, 4,000 leased from about 19 or 20 different landlords. And we have 2 farms that are under contract to a developer.
Concerned by neighboring farmland converting to solar, Rob Davis co-founded Farmers Alliance for Rural Maryland, a group lobbying against solar farms.
What I'm afraid of is the large-scale commercial solar projects that swallow up 400, 500, 600 acre farms at a time. When you take that acre out of farm production, it takes money out of many businesses in the community.
You know, that's a big concern. And you kind of can't blame them for seeing the big flashy numbers that are being thrown at them.
In 2024, the USDA reported the nation's average cash rental for cropland was $160 per acre, while Maryland's solar lease rates ranged from $700 to $5,000 per acre annually.
At least about 2 or 3 times a week, we get something in the mail from a solar company offering what is 20, 30 times more than we could afford to pay in rent. If we don't start to kind of pump the brakes on the solar sprawl today, I'm afraid that in the future we'll be taking opportunity away from the next generation to farm.
While there may be cases of landowners going solar for simply the financial benefits, there are also landowners who went solar in order to save their farm for the next generation.
I think it's really important to continue this legacy.
Samantha Dixon grew up on Howard County's Triple Creek Farm.
And especially here on my family farm, where my family had grown up here for over 200 years. So I want to continue to raise either a feeder operation and continue to grow our brood cow and cow-calf operation from here.
But she had mixed feelings about her family leasing 27 acres to a solar developer.
I was kind of torn, just because I personally, at first, didn't want panels because I would rather continue using that for our crops and such. But as I grew older, I realized how much we needed it and how much actually was saving our farm.
Samantha's aunt, Teresa Stonecipher, and her mom, Denise, were born and raised on this 92-acre farm, and it's never been easy.
The struggle to raise a family and try to live off the farm, it wasn't working for my mom and dad.
To keep the farm going, her father, and later Teresa, drove school buses.
And I had school buses until my husband was severely hurt on the job in 1989.
For generations, the family worked off farm, but by the late 2000s, they were forced into a hard decision.
When my mother passed away and we had to settle the estate, it became apparent then if we had to come up with another way of some other income in order for us to stay here. We had our blood, sweat, and tears in this place. I farmed it with my grandfather and my father, so it was a hard decision for us to make. But it was even harder to think that we would have to sell and go.
Teresa's story shows that there are no easy answers when it comes to solar on farmland. And Rob Davis's story shows that this issue is not so cut and dry.
We're not anti-solar. As you can see, we're pro-solar. We've got it here in our backyard.
This 1.5 acre of solar panels powers 6 poultry houses, 2 grain storage systems, 5 irrigation pivots, and 4 homes.
Here, we feel like it really made sense to complement our needs, our electricity needs.
But Rob still worries about large-scale solar development in his community.
Our neighbor sold out to a solar company, and their solar field's over 400 acres. There are still a lot of young farmers who would love the opportunity to get started on a 400-acre farm.
Teresa Stonecipher's decision to add solar to their farm was both financial and preservative for future generations, and she knows not everyone will agree.
And it's not something that everyone can do. I wouldn't tell someone that you should do this or you should do that.
I'm actually impressed with the fact that there aren't more solar fields spread across the shore, because I think a lot of these landowners realize that it's more important to leave this land in ag production and supporting the local ag community rather than just taking the highest bidder.
In Maryland, those decisions being debated over solar aren't just about land. It's about legacy, finding a future where green energy and green fields can grow together. To learn more about our show and watch full episodes, check out mpt.org/farm or just click the link in the description.